So listen, folks, what I want to do is I want to look at the whole area around broadcasting, and it'll lead into the last session around kind of remote recording. They're all kind of related, to be fair, right? So I don't have notes prepared for this, only notes in my head based on what I'll show you, right? I'll have little side notes here, but just take note yourself, and take everything I'm saying with a pinch of salt as well, because what I'm talking about is a practice. So just people coming in the door still. I'm talking about my own practice and what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And that might be very different to you, right? But I do know what works for an artist, creative people like ourselves is very, very different than what the kind of marketing gurus are telling the people involved in culture, tourism, and that kind of stuff. You know, all this kind of, it's a very different kettle of fish, right? And I've just seen it playing out. So listen, so what I'm going to look at, say for example, you've made your films for Crenew or whatever you're doing, whatever you group your work committee, your own work. And the whole idea is where do you show them? What do you do? Like gone are the days, you know, when you have to be you have to be looking for permission to hang them in a white wall gallery space, or, you know, that kind of way, or not to get into a film festival. That whole thing has completely changed. That changed many years ago, right? So, and it's just a different way in which we show or look at moving image, right? So yeah, and you probably all know that yourselves. I don't know whether, like, do you sit down on Saturday night? I'd stick on a YouTube playlist quicker than I would stick on television. You know, that kind of way. I'd stick on Cormac Begley there next you don't know what could come up then after that, right? So that's what I myself I'd be doing. And there's more and more people producing video content, small production companies, and then just people literally on their mobile phones as well producing content. So that's all completely changed, and what we can access is really completely changed. But one of the tools that I would use, remember I was telling you before, like I was showing stuff. Did I show you the photographs before of me, that kind of recording process where I was recording old people in daycare centres? Did I show you those at the start? Yeah. And then the way it went to the social media thing. So my own practice, I would use Facebook and YouTube. And then I'd use a little bit of Instagram, and I wouldn't use Twitter, right? I just kind of say to myself, these are tools that I would use to suit me, right? And based on what time I have and all as well to do them. Like, do you use, and I don't mean to be freaking plugging social media here for you lads, but to me, it's just a space or a tool. It's like almost like an open studio into my practice, I'll be honest with you, right? So it's just kind of, it's what people would have been wanting to do years ago, go into someone's studio to see what they're having nose around, what they're interested in, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's a very public way to do that. In some ways, it's also a good one for, I kind of find, for me, because I'm always producing work, and sometimes I'm always getting sparked by things I see, and I just throw things up there, and that to me is working. It works well for me, you know, so I use it like that. To say that it's not work, it is work, but then again, that's what I signed up for. That's the vocation you're in. That's what you do, you know, as an artist. You know, you can't clock off at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock. It's just what you're interested in. That's it. And at this stage in my life, I'm too free range now as well. You know, that kind of way. I'm not too far gone. So even yourselves, do you use social media within your own practice at all, or in the Crenew, right? Right. Yeah. And yous are all looking like, I suppose with Crenew, there's probably a younger age profile using Instagram. You're going to target a little bit, won't you? It'll be that kind of Instagram generation, right? And then in my case, it's Facebook. I kind of, my age profile, I suppose, is 40 to 80 is kind of the profile. I can go up to 90, you know, that kind of, it's a really much older profile. But some of the things that work in Instagram and Facebook, they're pretty much the same. There's a lot of time involved. Don't let anyone say to you, you know, the way now I see people go, I should just do, you look after the social media. It's an awful lot of work, lads, isn't it? I find it's an awful lot of work, right? And for anyone to say it's not, they're lying, because it is, because you're turned on and you're trying to think what you're going to post, when you're going to post, and the time of day and the mood of the nation. There's loads of things that are all influenced, right? What the weather's like outside, just loads of things, right? So that's really important. I'm going to mute you, Miriam, there. I think there's someone's toilet or something going in the background. Can I hear? Was it nice? No, it's gone. Cool out. Now, so come here to me. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at that with you now. Here's the thing as well. The likes of Instagram or Facebook, it's hard. It's a hard one. If you, all right, come here. If you put up today is Thursday, I guarantee you someone will argue, say today is Friday, right? That's the first thing, right? So be prepared for that, because you're putting your soul a bit on the line. There's also the amount of people who use social media for sharing work or sharing whatever they do as well. by not getting tons of likes doesn't mean that people aren't watching. People do watch. We'd be really surprised the amount of people who just look in, don't post anything, and it's very Irish as well. You know, it's kind of thing. I couldn't be saying anything. You know, that kind of way. You know, I find certainly in older generation, I'd be collecting the kids from school and I'd meet grandparents and they go, "Oh, you yoke up there today about something about cuckoo coming in April." So how do you know? Oh, sure, I saw it on the wife's Facebook page. You tell me, right? So there's that kind of there's a whole 70-80-year-old lurkers, if you want to call them that, on it, whatever, right? And it's a really interesting tool. The reach of it is really interesting. I kind of find I live in a rural part of here in County Wexford, and it's actually been a massive tool to connect people. You know, the Irish have embraced Facebook, like compared to the mainland Europeans, were what some of the top users of it, right? So it's a really interesting one to watch. I think it could be our social nature a little bit, and I don't know why it is, but it's an interesting one to watch. How we've done it. But anyway, listen, come here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to run through my page with you, right? Let you have a go at it, right? And take everything here with a pinch of salt, right? So I would use, say if I'm going to share my screen with you, if I'm going to get some video out of the way. And I'll show you how I do events and stuff, right? Just take a look at my Folklore.ie page, right? Just to show you something. And this is one thing that I was told by people when I went on Facebook about 5 years ago. Oh, people have no interest in that whole stuff, or big long text and all that. But it proved it wrong. So I put up like maybe 1 or 2 posts a day on Folklore.ie. And it could be like literally, oh, by the way, lads, this was filmed on my phone the other day. We put up the Maybush here in Wexford, and literally went out and filmed on my mobile phone, because you always get a burst of wind in the first week of May, and it blows all the stuff off the Maybushes. But like, it was filmed on my mobile phone, 180 likes, like, and the context and the story about what the story was, not the best video in the world, and I don't know, 10, 15,000 views over straight away, right? So I put up content that's very local and very specific. Here's the thing about hanging up a piece of ivy in the cow sheds, apparently it stops the cows getting ringworm. And straight away, someone in County Antrim will go, we do that, or we do that with a holly bush, whatever it is, right? So that's what's really interesting. It's very localized stuff. Don't be afraid of the local. People can handle the local. There was an old narrative for years, everything had to be all fucking Dublin-centric or Galway-centric, you know. That's got that day is gone. I know you have a different perspective, come from the city, but that, you know, that can, us regional counties, you know, that kind of way, you never get a look in, so a little bit. So that's interesting. So just to show you that, so I'd be putting up photographs, our shared photographs people would find in biscuit tins, send them to me. These are over the last week, right? And I'd be putting up bits and pieces. Again, this is filmed the other night, filmed at the Maybush up in the village here, mobile phone job, and nothing else in my pocket, just filmed it. And again, it's able to get enough content across what the Maybush was, and able to get the likes and the shares and the engagement with the comments going, right? So just to show you, so I put up photographs and videos, and if I go up to the main page itself, if I go to the video section, just to show you, the video section would be, you know, if I put up any video, you're getting from 3 to 10,000 views straight away. That's on average, right? Per day. And some could be filmed on a mobile phone, some could be filmed on a big camera, some could be using Zoom. This is a man from Kerry, lives here in Wexford, was telling me about the Scaravine days down in Kerry, the cold days in late April. And again, filmed on Zoom, using Zoom to record it, right? So that's really interesting. And again, it's the same, like you get the comments and the interactions and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's just to show you that kind of content. Break this quality stuff is not great at all, but it's still getting 20,000 views. It's local, and whatever the man is talking about. Does that make sense to you? So there's a real mix of stuff there. And even, as I said to you, even simple things like I would put up, I would have never considered using InShot before. And I now again, me putting the fairy wind thing up, I said, fake it, it's on my phone. I'll just literally put a title on it and stick it up and give it a bit of context, and it's able to get the people to interact with it, right? So that's what kind of works for me. You can hear my dogs barking in the background. But just to show you, one thing that I do is when I put up a video on Facebook, I also have videos going on a YouTube page at the same time, right? Do you see that? Okay, so basically one thing that I figured out is that if I have a video up on Facebook, I put it straight in, embed it, and give it some kind of context. So here's the thing about a fairy wind, blah, blah, blah. And then I also put it up on YouTube, right? I haven't actually put that one up on YouTube yet, right? But if I put that video up on YouTube and copy the YouTube URL and put it over into Facebook, it won't get the same interaction. Have any ever noticed that? Right? I've noticed that from day one, from 5 years ago, right? So it won't get the same interaction as the other one, right? It just means it's one extra click away. Does that make sense to somebody who uses it, right? That means it's one extra click, and people don't like an extra click to pull them away from where they are browsing or where they're looking at stuff, right? And there's a massive difference, folks. If I can show you, like, if I could show you videos there, like if I could, like some videos here will get 50,000 views here, and they'll get like, sorry, they'll get 50,000 views on Facebook, and they'll get like 200 or 300 views on YouTube. So there's huge difference in the numbers reached. It's the shareability aspect of it, which I find is the likes of Instagram and the likes of Facebook have, right, which are really quite powerful, right? So that means you can share them then to I'm going to stop sharing this for a second here. You can share them to different groups, different, you know, like a film society or a history society or a heritage group. Does that make sense to you, what I'm talking about, right? So, but just bear that in mind. And the other reason I put stuff up on YouTube is because if I've got folklore content, schools can't access Facebook, so if they can only access or Instagram, they can access on YouTube, right? So every school teacher in the country uses YouTube. You know, there's no denying it. That's what they use to stick it on, right? So YouTube is the place for it. Vimeo is grand, but I'm telling you, they'll all go to YouTube, right? The art ones tend to use Vimeo, but they'll go to YouTube if you can run both of them if you want, if you have an account. Does that make sense to you? Right. Here's one thing I've noticed as well with regard to that kind of content stuff, is if I put up videos, you have to give it, there has to be some kind of sense of view behind a post, right? I know you've maybe heard this before, like there's some kind of sense of view, like, oh, here's something I filmed a man down in Cork the other day, tell me this great word, or just, you know, that kind of way. There has to be some sense of you. Even the big guys have been, they're cracking away at it, like Lidl have got it now. They're using things like the grand old stretch, you know, that kind of way. They're using the same vernacular languages, you know, as the ordinary everyday person, you know, that kind of way. So a complete turn in market. And Tesco, like one of the biggest corporations, supermarkets in probably the country, I'd say, they're doing the same crack again, you know, to have a person behind their stuff, right? So that's what the thing is. And that's hard too as well, folks, you know, if it suits you, you know, like you're putting your soul a bit in the line a little bit, I suppose. If you're an artist, you do it anyway, to some degree. You do it anyway, you expose yourself a little bit, but so that's hard for some people. Does that make sense to you, though? Does it, that's some kind of sense of you behind what you're saying. Another thing I've noticed as well, I say if I do a big 40-minute folklore collection from Galway, East Galway, and it could be brilliant, it could be spent months editing it, and I put it up and I get me 3,000 views. But what happens if I found over the years, if I go in, and this is all due to time, if I go in and pluck out 40 seconds of one story and literally just talk about that, oh, here's a great story about, Jesus, planting apple trees or something like that, some particular story, right? It'll get 6,000 to 10,000 views, right? It's this unpacking, this kind of taking something, unpacking it. And that's been the biggest thing, even for archives. We'd work with archives around the country, like the Trishton Music Archive and places like that. It's the idea of going in and finding something and pulling it out and then putting a spotlight on it. Does that make sense to you? Right? So that's one thing I've noticed even with videos as well. Now, there's certain times you'd have no time in the world. You wouldn't have time to edit up. You'd only have the 40-minute edit and you have to put it up, right? But if you do, it all comes down to time. And like, I'm self-employed, so it comes down to time, right? One thing as well I want to show you here, I'll show you something as well. And I hope this is making sense to you folks, right? And you probably know a lot of this already, right? If I have a video up here, to see my video, this man and woman, that's filmed on my mobile phone landscape, right? Just on my mobile phone. Now, come here to me. If I wanted to go to put that up on Instagram now, it'll take me another little bit of time. I'll have to go and crop the sides of it and show it up, right? And that's not too bad if the video is widescreen or it's on my phone already. But say if I want to go back and find an archive piece like this man here from 2006, when I recorded, right? I'll have a hard job in the first place to go back and find the original piece. But then I'll have to go back, edit it for YouTube, and then also crop the sides of it and edit it for Instagram. So it's another half an hour, 40 minutes work for me. So that's what's pulling me away from Instagram personally. It's an extra layer of work for me when I'm dealing with archival footage, right? It's just time that I don't have. Does that make sense to you as well, right? But if you have that content, if you're working, say, on a project with Michael, yeah.
Mike, sorry, can I interrupt you and ask you a question? When I've posted other museum videos to Instagram, we use that IGTV format. Does that work for you? Would you recommend it?
I've never used it, Dominic, I'll be honest with you. And what does it keep it widescreen, Dominic, does it?
It does, yeah.
Okay, but I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. I was cropping the ones I was putting up before and putting them in, and they had to be, I could keep them widescreen if they were under a minute, I think it was.
Yeah, there's a facility, I think, Michael. No, it might be recent,
Okay.
they've developed that to you can put on longer videos in a widescreen format.
Okay, good. What's it called again?
I'll get back to you on that when I look it up
Stick it in the chat, because that might be handy for some of you, right? Yeah, I tell you what, like if you're an employed social media marketer or whatever, that's great, and you've time to do it, great. You know, I find Instagram. I'm asking myself the question: I'm able to get enough out of Facebook without having to go to another layer of text to open up. It's like having 3 emails, you know, that kind of way. And you're going through, you've got your main email, then you've got a couple of other emails as well, you know, that kind of way. And it's just time, lads. But I would recommend, if you're producing content, work with it now. Get it, you know, it's very easy to make your video widescreen for YouTube, and then go back and do another edit and make it like crop it for the likes of Instagram, right? Especially when the content's on your phone or on your computer. Does that make sense? So if you use it, if it helps your practice, right? You'll hear these marketing gurus will tell you have to have all these things singing off to say all working together. That, you know, that it doesn't suit everyone's individual practice, you know, that kind of way. But you know, maybe some bigger organizations are right, you will have to have them going, but like mine is a very personal practice, you know, it's personal practice through research and through, it's very, you know, does that make sense to you? Right? So you don't have, you call that decision yourself, right? Now, come here to me, what can I say at all? Okay, so the YouTube, the Facebook stuff, the Facebook posts, I tell you what I find really handy about it, the shareability option. That's what's really key. And all around the country, you will get groups, you'll get Kinsale History Group, something Heritage Group, you know, all that kind of stuff. And they're brilliant to tap into. They're brilliant for research. They're brilliant for when you're looking to get work done. And they're also great for sharing stuff as well. So they're really, really good. I know there are Instagram groups as well, the same way as well, right? But I find that for my area work, that those groups have been key to me building up a profile over the years. All those little local groups, those grassroots groups in every county or all over the country, right? So that's been key to me. I found. So I hope that makes sense to you, does it? It does, yeah. Now, come here to me. One thing I don't. Yeah, go on.
One thing I was going to say there, Mike, is that just a thing that I've noticed myself is that if you do take over the social media for your organization or whatever, one thing to be aware of is that the way Facebook works, your own stuff and your own opinions from your own page could possibly be shared along those lines as well. So if you're very opinionated like I am, be wary of stuff that you're posting on your own page, because it will go, you know, it'll link automatically to the kind of the organizational page as well if you're not careful. You know?
Yeah. And that's, I suppose, one of the things as well. That's a good point as well. I normally mention, Johnny, is the idea as well that it's okay for some freelance like Mick Fortune here to put up stuff, right? It's very hard for organizations. So if you're a library, you're an organization or a county council, but you know, you can't really express your opinion as much as you'd like to, you know, that kind of way. So you're held back. So I really understand and appreciate that as well. I find that with library staff, you know, someone's personality to shine, you know, it can be harder sometimes. You know what I mean, don't you? So bear that in mind. It's very different than Mick Fortune putting a proposal or something he's given it over, and then right. So that's definitely the case, right? So just keep checking that. One thing that I don't do, by the way, folks, I'm just looking at my own notes here. I've never had a sponsored ad. I've never paid for a sponsored ad on Facebook. Like, I really appreciate the service. And you know what? Worst comes to worst, I'd probably contribute something to pay for it if I had to. But I don't like sponsored ad things, because I always kind of find if people want to get my attention, they'll get it. They'll have to earn it a little bit. And that's just me being stubborn and contrary. But I just do, when I see a sponsored ad, sometimes I flick through them. I just flick up past them. And I saw the bigger organizations do them over the years, you know, sponsored ads for, you know, the biggest cultural arts organizations, and they're getting 2 and 3 likes, and it reads wrong a little bit sometimes as well, you know, that kind of way. I always think it reads wrong when you got 3 views and you go, what's really happening here? That's one thing just bear that in mind. Again, take this with a pinch of salt. One thing as well that I've noticed over the years, and I don't do as well, is be careful. And as with the old, I know the arts organizations might like me saying this, but be careful with the over tagging of half the country. You know, that kind of way. For example, right, like if I put up a piece of work, I'm working with some organizations, and someone will ask me to tag them in it, and I might tag them depending on what humor I'm in a little bit, or maybe if I see the benefit from it, right? Now, the reason why is because I've noticed last summer, classic case, Crinan and Og, 5 local authorities, right, middle of lockdown. And I put up a post, delighted to be working with 5 local authorities, got working, mentioned the 5 things. So everyone got mentioned, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure I got 400 or 500 likes, and people going, "Cheers, well done, Mick, you're right, lad, right? Isn't it great to get a bit of work during lockdown, right?" And that was all just decent response back, brilliant for you, right? And one of the people said to me, "You're going to have to." One of the new people come back and said, "You're going to have to tag Creative Ireland, Culture Ireland, all this kind of." And I said, "If I tag you, I get no likes." And she said, "What do you mean? This is what you have to do, because we're told this is what you have to do." I said, "I guarantee I'll get no likes." So I did what the person asked me, and they got 5 likes next week, right? Right, 4 or 5 actually. That's what I got, right? And the post is still up in my thing there, because people asking the question are, if Mick Fortune's friends are asking the questions, right? And they're not always the art people either. That's the great thing about the social media, is actually we get a bigger reach. That's the best thing about it, where we interact with culture. Is they ask the question, what's Mick Fortune really at? Is he bigging up himself that he's connected now to Culture Ireland, Creative Ireland, Cork Arts Office, blah blah blah, right? And people see through that, right? Or is Mick Fortune really just happy that he's got work and he's delighted? So I keep saying that to anyone I'm working with, I'll get you your attention, but I get it in a different way than the old usual the other way, right? And I've come across that anecdotally from other artists as well over the last while. This idea of all is too much. Do you know what I mean, don't you? And this is easy for me to say as well, but it's hard for some of your organizations that are tied in. You have to go tag, you're told by your funders, you have to tag everyone, right? But believe me, people don't interact with it as much. I find people don't interact with it as much, right? And I've even seen individual artists and practitioners that put up, here's a new piece of work that I made. Jeez, that's a big block of tags in it, right? Again and again. I don't know whether Facebook has a yoke of reading it or not as well. I don't know technically what the story is, but I just know that just keep a check on it. That's all I can say to you, right? The other thing as well, and what I would do, there's ways around everything. There's ways around everything. Say, for example, I'm working with Mary Walsh, and we were working together on the project, and I come up with a post and say, "Mary, I'm sending it through Messenger. Mary, here, I put this on my page. You share it on your page now, right?" Say if I'm working with 5 or 6 different partners, there's ways around everything, right? That kind of way. And everyone, still, the bottom line is you obviously have to acknowledge your funders, but you can still get it, right? But mind you, I've seen it, and keep a check on this now as well. I've seen it in the last, I'm writing report, I'm filling in reports in the last year as well. Jesus, half the interest is not to do with the content of the quality of the artwork, it's to do with how many people watch it on Facebook or YouTube. Any practitioner have noticed that? But, that's the thing you need to weigh up a little bit as well, a little bit as well, right? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I hope it doesn't become just all about how many Facebook views you get, and how many likes you get, how many YouTube views you get, and rather than the quality of the content that you're making. I can understand it from a marketing point of view, all right, but there's a but there. And here's me saying that, and I've no problem getting the likes and the views, that kind of way. I have no problem, but I do, I still wouldn't, by me getting 500 likes doesn't mean some pro creator who's only got 3 likes in their video doesn't mean I'm any better than them, that kind of way. That kind of way. It's not about numbers sometimes. So that's one part of it. Oh, also be careful if you notice yourselves with all the tagging people. Do you know that? Some people don't like to be tagged. Right, so just keep a check on that as well a little bit, right? One thing I figured out as well, I hope this of use to you, is I found out the live element is interesting. In any of that social media, the live element is there, right? So you feel like you're there with Deirdre O'Reilly, right? So if I put up a post and I was down in Cork 3 weeks ago and I saw a big standing stone in the field and it was brilliant, I get people, I get 50 to 100 likes, right? But if I come back and say, "Geez, money in the door now after seeing this amazing standing stone in Cork," it could get 200 likes. That kind of way. People feel like they're there with you in time, right? And that goes for all your posts. So keep a check on that. There's a time element. There's a kind of a sell by date on a post as well. But just keep a check on that. There's a kind of I'm there with you. So it's always, it's like if you're doing a workshop. Sometimes it's always nice to strike when the iron is hot. And just did a lovely workshop there now in such a library somewhere. That kind of way. If you're going to use this as a tool to promote yourself, use that. Because sometimes then some people do schedule posts, and the energy's gone out. But that kind of way, it's scheduled for 9 o'clock. The energy might be gone. That kind of way. It depends on the humor. I'm telling you, it's all based on the humor, right? Like even during the day, I'm finding I get loads of interaction now at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, right? That's nuts. People on their sofas, putting the buttons, right? So that's an interesting one. So these scheduled posts that people have, libraries love scheduled posts, by the way. Jeez, there's nothing. They love scheduled posts and notes, right? Just to being very general, being very general there on this kind of stuff. But
can I just jump in there? The way you were saying that you mentioned sponsored posts. Do you mean by is that like boosting the posts?
Yeah, yeah. I've up to yourself use. I've never used it, right? And I'm always It's just, maybe it's me still. I don't like looking at posts that are sponsored. I don't know what it is. I don't know what. Like, I had it, like, I've got my own page, just about, I set up Michael Fortune, and I built up 5,000 friends, that's in brackets, right? 5,000 friends, then another 5,000 or 6,000 followers on that page, right? And someone asked me, it was an arts officer, said to me, he said, are you going to make that a business page, Mick, for your work? And I said, if I do that, people won't interact, because they want to get a bit of sense of me in it, right? So that's why I deliberately did that. And I'd have about 5 or 6 pages. I'll show you on the go. I'll just show you here now, for example. And I've built up profile just through fucking hard work with it, right? So the Folklore.ie page is about 30,000 followers, about 30,000 followers and 40,000 something. I don't know. There's a good lump of people there. It's either 70,000 or 40,000. I can't remember what it is, right? And then interactions wise, because I never normally looked at the stats, I was getting, I was getting between 300,000 to 800,000 interactions every four weeks. And that's a non-sponsored, very localized page. That's the kind of that's the what you're getting. So that's that kind of stuff. You know, I hope that it makes kind of sense to you. So I don't normally look at it, to be honest with you. I'd also run community separate pages here, and this is like, I'd run, like, we do a thing called the Wexford Maybush Festival, completely ground up. Like, it's only got 3,000 followers, but it's still like photographs of Maybushes all over Wexford. Photographs. That comes alive at the end of April. It'll go asleep now come the middle of May, and be back up again next year again. But it's lovely. It's a great way, a great, absolutely brilliant tool for we got the whole Maybush tradition going back in Wexford through social media. It's gas, absolute social media got a whole tradition going again back in the whole county, right? So that's an interesting one to even watch as well. So yeah, so back to your answer, Mary. No, yeah, I don't do. I've never done the sponsored ads. Maybe I know I've never done them, right? Come here to me. Have any of you ever used Facebook Live or YouTube Live or Instagram Live? You have, yeah. Okay. How do you find it all? Joe Curtin there. I'm looking at you nodding there.
I suppose I'm a youth worker in a youth centre, so if you have a gig or something with the music group, I'd put up Facebook Live. How do I find it? I suppose it's limited. I don't find it. There's not too much interaction with it, I find. I know some young people would be mortified as well and horrified at the thought of being on Instagram Live. So you obviously have to check that first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't impact our social media too much.
Yeah, yeah.
Not as much as a post would or a video, you know.
Okay, good. Have any of the rest of you use Facebook Live or Instagram Live or YouTube Live? Okay, I tell you what, come here, about 3.5 years ago, I remember started using Facebook Live for certain things, right? Knowing you were doing an event in the library or you're doing a concert or that kind of stuff, right? And you know yourself, you're breaking your back to get 30 people into a room or 50 people into a room sometimes, and you go, Jesus, wouldn't it be very easy, this yoke here, like, it's not an RTE satellite dish one, it's not a van with a satellite dish in the roof, it's a mobile phone. It's incredible, really. You can record, share, and broadcast on this thing here, right? It's nuts, right? Like, it's just mental, really, when you consider it, and right. So we start to use it just to get extra audience numbers in, and obviously to bring a bigger number into a program. So if you're doing an event in the library with everyone's permission, to sit as a speaker in the library or doing a talk yourself, you'd set up a very simple tripod with a camera and your phone, bit of data, and mobile, and go Facebook Live, and I guarantee you get 30, 40, 50 extra people in, right? So that completely, Culture Ireland kind of during the year, they kind of copped onto it, but people have been like, I saw the breaking news on RT there a couple of months ago about the Project Art Centre doing a live theatres. I was going, just that's people using that 3 years ago. You know, some people are going, oh, this all happened due to COVID. For a lot of people, it happened during COVID, but there were so many practitioners who were using it years before it. Like, I think of John Whelan, a box player over in America, Mondays with John. Gerard Wolfe has started using it now. Gerard Wolfe does live concerts every now and again as well. You see cropping up as well. Loads of people using Facebook Live, right? A lot of art centres were resistant to it at first. I think some copped on that it was basically a nice way to get an extra few people into your space on a Saturday night virtually, right? It's hard to monetize it, but all I can say is good for profiles for places, right? We always found that the monetization was the profile building of it, right? So yeah, the live element is, you can use it. Like, to use the live element, come here to me. You could be doing a book launch, right, on 8 o'clock tonight, and you can literally advertise it for days in advance, and then say 8 o'clock and you go live and you'll have the speaker talking about it, whatever, that kind of stuff. You can also just be at random out in the field and see something and go live with it as well, right? But people do like the live thing, right? Whether you've you've plugged it, done the PR in advance, or whether you're just going live. Most people do the PR in advance. That's what we would do, right? So what I'm going to do, for those who don't know, I'm going to share my screen with you and show you what Facebook Live looks like, right? Because it's a powerful tool, right? And we would do, like nowadays, we would just do simply, we would just do completely Facebook Live events, because obviously with lockdown. So I'm going to zoom. I hope this is making sense to you folks, is it? Or is it, it's a bit yappy on my behalf now, right? But it's just that it's the only way with this kind of stuff. And I said, take everything I'm saying with a pinch of salt, because what might work for me might work for you, right? So I'm going to go Facebook Live to show you this now, right? Now, can you all see there? There's my phone. And say, for example, I'm going to go to Facebook now, right? And if I wanted to go live now, right, I would literally go to my profile and I would open it up and I would go live. You do the exact same on Instagram, the same thing again. There's a live function on Instagram. I find the Facebook Live handier than the YouTube Live because of the shareability of it, right? So say, for example, we're going to have someone over there in the far corner there now. It's going to show me again. No, it's going to let me turn sideways. Is it? Yeah, okay. So all you need to go Facebook Live is, right, you need your mobile phone. I would use a mobile phone if you don't have a camera. It's the easiest thing to use. Use the camera on the back of it. It's a better camera. Into a little tripod, little cheap tripod here, and stick it in, right? And then we're going to have a fellow over there going to show us how to make straw masks, right? See that? And literally, this is coming up to a 1 o'clock workshop with a man from Kerry who's going to show us how to make straw masks. And what I would do is I tap in my description here. Here we go. Here is blah, 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 going to show us how to make straw masks. And I'd always put in the time at the start and the end of the broadcast. This starts at 1 o'clock, finishes at 1:45. And then when he's ready and I'm ready, 1 o'clock will come. If you have another person with you, brilliant. Make sure you've got good Wi-Fi. Make sure your mobile phone is turned off. You know, all the incoming calls are turned off. And make sure, set up your shot the same way I showed you the first day. And make sure you've got battery life. Don't do it on 3% battery. So you just press the little blue button over in the far right, that little blue button, and that will just go connecting and go live. And next minute you have your man here going, hello everyone, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm going to show you how to make a straw mask today, right? And what's brilliant is you'll see all the people crop up. You know, see the bit says there, K is live, or K is watching. So there's different people. We'll see Tommy Murphy's watching, Gillian Hennessy's watching. You with me? And that's really handy. Say if you're working with someone, you can actually be here on your laptop or another mobile phone, sharing that to, you know, different groups, Vernacular Furniture Ireland, whatever it is. You with me? So that's what's really good for getting that access, getting that stuff out there, right? So that works really, really well. Don't put on the little smiley faces, lads, by the way. Just be careful not to knock those on for yourselves. And if you're on your own, just knock the camera around. There's a reverse camera. So use the camera on this side, and you could be doing it this way. I think this is what Jared Wolf and a lot of people would do, is have a camera like that, and they would just be there. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my lunchtime concert. And they will sing or do their poetry, whatever. One of the things about that is you can see the description coming up. You can see who's watching, Mary from Illinois, etc., etc., etc. So that kind of stuff. You can go, here's a song for you, Mary, here's blah, 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 right? If you're on your own, if you've got two people and you're using the back camera like here, and the singer or the poetry reader is over there, you can have a laptop over there with him, and they can be looking at the comments coming in as well. Oh, Mary and Kilrush has asked me this, blah, 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 right? So that's the live element. That's just absolutely incredible when you think about it, that you can shoot, broadcast, and share something like that, just like that. Like it's incredible. So that can be another way, again, of accessing audiences if you're having a talk with people's permissions and stuff like that, right? So that's what one simple way of doing it. Okay, a few things to say to you as well. You can make it public. Are only friends only, but if you go public, right, it'll go live. It'll stay live. It'll ask you at the very end, do you want to keep this public? So you can keep it public so people can watch it after the event is finished, or you can make it private so only those people who attended between 1 and 2 can watch it. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's up to you. I tend to leave it up public, or tell you what I do sometimes as well. And say when we're doing a bigger concert or an event, I would have a second camera beside this, or a second mobile phone, right? And basically I'd have the camera or the mobile phone recording the best quality video, and then I'd have this one doing the broadcast. So the quality of this, give or take, will be about 90%, right? So basically then when this will be over, I click private and then I'll upload a better quality one then. You with me? I might even put titles on it, or credits on it, logos on it, that kind of stuff if you've got time to do it. Oh, does that make sense to you? Yeah. So even if you say you're working as an operator, you might even have a second, like a selfie stick up here, and you have a second camera recording it, so you get a better quality video of it. It's just that Instagram lets you download a video once it's done, but Facebook is a right pain to download the video afterwards. Does that make sense? Say, for example, there was a poetry reading over there, and you wanted to take that video and put it up to YouTube afterwards. You have to go through a pilot process to rip that video off Facebook. So by having the second camera there, or the second mobile phone, means you have a second record of it. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. So that's a good thing to do if your event is, you said like this event is work documented, right? So I'm going to get out there for a second. Make sure not to go live. So
you can do the reverse of that as well, Michael. Can't you prepare the video first, and then it's almost like pseudo live, put it up as if it was live, but you've edited it.
Absolutely.
But you lose comments then as the actual people commenting and asking you questions and stuff.
Yeah, you do lose that. I'm going to show you this right now. Actually, here's going to load up for you. I'm going to show you the device here. And this, I got this about 3 years ago we were doing podcasts with a friend of mine, and it was pre-recorded, right? There's a little box here, folks, right? And it's called an Elgato, Elgato, Elgato HD60, Elgato. It's a gaming card. They're about 170 euros. You get them on Done Deal or adverts, whatever, right? And what I would use this for, I know you can do scheduled posts now or on Facebook, but what we were using this for originally, and I still would use it. Say, for example, I had a pre-recorded film here of a man, right? And literally, what all I would do is I'd hook that up. It's the HDMI into my laptop here. So I'm going to plug it in for you. HDMI into my laptop, and it goes into this little box. And this little box, this is where USB goes into my computer here, right? And then for those of you who don't know, I know this might be complicated for some of you, but I'm going to show you what's completely feasible. It does a copy of my screen. Can you all see that? Right? So what I do is I would then come at 8 o'clock tonight, if I'm going to do a launch of this film, I would literally go over here, press record or press play there, and come over here and then click stream here. And I would stream that to Facebook Live or YouTube Live or any of those kind of live platforms. So does that make sense to you? Now it's a little bit complicated for some of you. It's a little bit of setup, but it's not major, right? Either. It just means you can have pre-recorded content. We used that last year, just the NLI. We'd have pre-recorded concerts from years ago, and you'd actually give them a second run out. Does that make sense to you? Okay. Also makes sense as well if you were doing if you had a video camera here and you record, if it has a HDMI cable, like we would do it with the little ones here. To do a live concert, which it'd be filmed maybe an hour beforehand, just in case one of them like to make it, and you'd have it then, and you'd plug it in and just press play, and it'd come through as live then. That makes sense? Yeah. So that's a really handy little device, an Elgato HD60. They're just called gaming cards, right? But it might be too complicated for some of you. But I know the scheduled posts now do that kind of crack, don't they? The same thing that you can schedule a post to come live. But again, it's that live element that people like, lads. That's the thing that kind of connect with, because you're there, that kind of way, a little bit. Here's one thing that I did recently as well. So I didn't use this. We were doing a launch of a film for a friend of mine, who was a local historian. And we were going to go do this way, but we went on Zoom like this. I don't know whether any of you used this before as well, because Zoom was good for this as well. So say, for example, we were all here for the launch of your man's 25-minute film. I'd have my film loaded on my desktop ready, okay? So we'd all come in and go, hello everyone, well, thanks Cork County Council for funding this and blah, 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 and all the speakers. And now we're going to watch the film, right? And you say to people, the quality is going to be dropped here because it's coming through Zoom, but at least you're in the room with us, that kind of way. And you're in the room and you can ask questions at the end and blah, blah, blah. And then literally share screen, click on that video and just watch it then. Does that make sense? Okay. And you flag with people, because sometimes you have to weigh up, is it nice to have people in the room with you? Or is it nice to just to have it, as you said, someone said they're cold on Facebook, where there's none of that interaction as much. That kind of way, right? Like even when I'm doing that live broadcast from here, lads, if I'm pressing the button here and sharing that to Facebook Live at 8 o'clock tonight, a film, I'll be here on my other laptop or a phone, sharing that to all different groups. You with me? So it's a whole, literally it's self-broadcasting. The reason there's a chap here in Wexford called Finbar Flanagan, and he does GAA matches. This tells you how much has changed, lads. He told me about this about 4 years ago, this little box, right? And he'd go to a field in rural Wexford with a camera, that device, and a mobile phone with data, and he'd film a GAA match and send it back to a link, right? That's all he had. The camera worked for 500 or 600 euros, and he'd send it back, right? And GAA then would start charging €5 for the link, right? Mental stuff, right? Young lads were also using it, by the way. Say someone was watching, had Sky. I always hate the idea of having to give a Sky money to watch a GAA match, by the way. I still wouldn't do it. And young lads were doing it here that have a Sky subscription, and they'd be watching down in pubs in Sydney and places like that as well, through little boxes like that. Lad will hook up his phone to it, and next minute he'll be watching down somewhere, right? So I don't do that, but I'm telling you, that's what lads do.
Michael, can I ask you about consent? I know
Yeah.
we need consent for filming kids and sharing,
What you do.
but adults, do you need consent? I presume you do.
Oh yeah, completely. Oh yeah, 100%.
They have to sign over the rights for them.
Oh, you do. And I've learned recently, but someone was saying to me, it's not worth the paper it's written on, but you have to do it. God, you have to do it.
Yeah.
If you film anyone at all, you have to get consent, especially adults, children. And even when I'm doing a Facebook, this is recording, I asked you, and I think that Siobhan had sussed it out with you. If we're doing a Facebook Live or a Zoom event, we would even have things flagged at the start. This thing is going to be broadcast live on Facebook. Please turn off your video if we don't want your face to be on it, or please notify me via chat, and I can block your face. This is going to be done. And that's the only way we can do consent now, virtual consent, if you know what I mean, right? I'll be touching that a little bit more with Zoom, but absolutely. A standard A4 sheet of paper, it's called an image release form, and it's like, I, Miriam, and Nahum give Michael Fortune permission to use my film, and list absolutely everywhere that could be shown. So the person reads it, and it's YouTube, Facebook, video, DVD, schools, that kind of way. List everything. And it's a standard one. Once you have it, then you're grand, right? And just always have that with you when you're filming anything, right? That's all, right? So come here to me as well. Are you still with me? You're grand? Yeah. Okay, I hope you're with me. Now, come here to me. We'll go away. There's the old Facebook stuff. None of this is any good to you, lads. By the way, can I say to you, none of this is any good to you unless you can advertise. And I find the art, sometimes we let ourselves down a little bit when it comes to advertising or what we do, right? Like we worked with an artist-run group in Limerick years ago called the Real Art Project, and we learned very quickly that you just had to build up audiences. You had to reach. And I think nowadays we're actually getting, we're getting a different reach of people. Culture, where we interact with culture, is completely, it's always been changing, but it's changing even more now. I've even noticed working on built in the programs last year in different local authorities that people were getting, the different types of people were going to different events that wouldn't have went to the normal library or art centre event, because we're able to access them from our home, from our mobile phones, and watch them on our television or watch them on our iPad on the sofa, right? So that's been a really interesting thing which has happened in the last year, big time, which turned over who can access stuff, right? And straight out of the traps, straight out of the traps last year were the arts. Tell you, whatever, people were out, the musicians, the singers were out, they were out of the traps last year in some ways before so many other people were out, right? I know traditional singing groups, and they're all age profile from 60 to 80. Jesus, they were straight out of the traps doing their traditional singing events on a Friday night, that kind of way. And they're still doing them, right? They can't wait to get back to the day when they're going to be meeting in real life, doing, we all can't wait for that to happen. But this other stuff is definitely there. Come here to me. I want to show you about events. I don't know how you advertise your events, right? But I'm going to show you posters that I would use. One thing that I've learned over when you're doing the online stuff, right, is one thing is shooting off too early, right? Is we would normally in the past advertise events 2 weeks in advance. Always. That was the classic art thing. 2 weeks in advance, local paper, local radio, push it, like rural stuff, right? I found if I'm doing an event now, it's 4 to 5 days, right? Weekend to weekend. And it's changing a bit now with the summer and to loosen up and stuff a little bit. But for the last year, and I'd say this could definitely be the case, we always kind of had that way of thinking anyway, a little bit, was that if you fire off an event on social media, say if I'm doing a poetry reading now 2 weeks time, if I let it off now, Mick Fortune in a poetry reading in Cork, people will see it on their feeds, but sure, it's gone. It's out their heads within 2 days, 3 days. You with me? So we can barely think from weekend to weekend. That was what I was saying. Weekend to weekend was our anchor points, right? So if I'm doing an event on a Thursday or Friday night, I'm starting Monday morning. Monday morning, I'm doing all my PR. Monday, designing my poster, putting it up in my event. Tuesday, I tip away Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Right, I have my event then, right? I don't go like, I know the bigger organizations like Crinnew and all them, they're national organizations, they're building up a national profile for bigger events. But for your own personal events, just keep it checking, starting off too early with your PR, right? Because people lose interest in coming along. Okay. The only gig in town, lads, as far as I could see, was a Facebook event. If anyone's ever done Facebook events, right? A Facebook event is great. You can use it then for Instagram. You can use a text for Twitter, and then you can use the old poster itself for the old-fashioned email stuff, right? Gone are the days of going up and printing up posters and sticking them up on the walls. You know, we've all done it. Jeez, years of it, right? And packing envelopes and stuff like that. Now we can still do a little bit more of it now, I think, right? But you know the amount of work of sticking up posters and stuff around, don't you? Like, Jesus, it's serious work, right? So what I will do, I'm going to show you what we do, right? With a Facebook event. Where's the Facebook? I'm going to share my screen here with you now. This is what I would do on a Monday morning now, right? Here. Now my stuff will be different, a little bit different than yours as well. I'm going to cover Zoom and stuff with you, right? Say if I'm doing, God, come here to me, a children's singing session here, right? Deirdre Scanlon and Tipperary. We would make this up on a Monday morning, say this on Saturday, and we just plug it in during the week. Does that make sense to you? And there's a very particular design here. Say if I'm doing it on borders and settlements, again, you'd advertise it at, you know, you go Thursday, Friday, plug it in Monday, Tuesday, right? Does that make sense to you, right? So you have those kind of events, right? One thing that I've learned, even just for yourselves to bear this in mind, is that I tend to always, someone told me years ago, I said, always, if you get an old flyer or a poster and it's got someone's face on it, you won't throw it in the bin. And they're kind of right. I always keep people's faces. If I can keep a face on a poster, I will, right? So that's what I would tend to do. And here's what I would do, this design, right? And I'll show you in a second. This design is done in Photoshop, right? So say, for example, this is a Maybush thing on Zoom, right? If I was going to design that now, that is 40 centimeters that way, fairly good in Photoshop, 80 centimeters that way, and a line in the middle at 40. So it's 40 and 40, right? And that particular format really suits I'll show you how it makes sense now, that shape, right? So, and I'll show you another way to design as well if you don't use Photoshop, right? So that's what I would do. You'd have the basic information up on top, and then if it's a Zoom event or whether it's a Facebook Live event or whatever it is, right? So there's the kind of stuff, whether it's the host, the traditional singers, your logos, and for your people, right? So park that for a second, right? I'm going to let you have a go up now what a Facebook event looks like. For some of you that don't know, right? So again, I'm using Facebook because I've got my reaches there, right? And if you're using Instagram, but it's still the same kind of thing. You have to build up a poster. You have to make a poster of something, right? So I'm going to go to Folklore.ie just to show you what an event looks like, right? By the way, if you're making an event, lads, will you do me a favor? Don't do it on your mobile phone. It's right pain. You need a screen to do it. So get onto a laptop and do it, right? So if I go down to events here, and don't be afraid to interrupt me, folks, right? Either. And it'll tell me now different events that I've created, right? So say, for example, we had, oh, come here, launch of the film, this War of Independence film, right? I was doing with a friend of mine. And when I launched there now. So we come on a Monday morning, we design up our Facebook event. You'd have a kind of an image up on top like that. It's on Zoom. You'd have the blurb about it, what was all about it, the Zoom login details, who funded and all that jazz, the time and duration, right? And once you set a Facebook event up, it gives you a little button here called invite, right? And when you click invite, you can invite your friends to it. It gives you 500 free invites, okay? So you think of 500 stamps, lads, right? The cost of 500 stamps to get something printed, right? So 500 stamps, and you can invite 500 friends to come along to an event, okay? Now the great thing about it, say if I'm working with Johnny Houlihan and Johnny is doing something, me and Johnny would work on it, we'd agree to text an image, and I'd let him off, and he'd make up an event from his page. That's an extra 500. Okay, so you work it like that, right? Sometimes it's restricted if you're doing too many events in 1 month, but 500 is the thing. And when you click invite, basically, I'd say invite Mary Walsh there and Alice Donoghue, and they'll get an invite and it'll go, Mike Big Fortune invite you to an event. Now, you get a thing going, interested, going, or maybe Irish people will take interested normally. Now, buying, just to remind you, lads, when an Irish person says they're going, doesn't mean they're going, right? Just means they're giving you the old thumbs up, right? So just don't take it as a guarantee they're going to come to it, right? It's a way of you getting free publicity out for your event. That's the bottom line here, lads, right? So that's what you do, right? You have that event and you can just plug it, share it to different groups. Another thing to keep an eye on with the inviting, it will also let you invite people through WhatsApp and through Messenger. Personally, I don't do it because I think it's a little personal. But if I knew Mary, I'd say, Mary, this show was on Friday night. You might want to come to it. But normally I don't. I think it's a little bit personal, right? So I don't do that. But if you do have a group that's already set up and they're already in a WhatsApp group or a Messenger group, this is brilliant because you can literally send it to them and all the people in your group get that message, right? Little thing to keep in mind as well. Say we had 119 people at that and 397 interested, right? If I click discussion here, now what I would do then is I'd come maybe on the day beforehand and I put up a little don't forget thing. And that means anyone who liked or clicked that will get a little reminder that yoke is on Friday night, just better go to it, right? Okay, so use that discussion button. That's a good one to use, right? Does that make sense to you? Okay, so there's that's the event. That's all really to do in events. And what I would do is watch this. If I click on this poster, I've got a poster now. Do you see that? Now, come Tuesday, I'd share that as a poster, as a standalone poster, right? Come Tuesday, I might share that as an email in an e-invite. You with me? Okay, so just tip away at your events. Say if you have a little related post, you know, you might post that on Tuesday, or might post something else to do the War of Independence next one on Thursday. You with me? Does that make sense to you? Just tip away at it. People will come. You don't want to appear desperate, but people will come. If they're going to come, they'll come, right? And I also find, here's what I find as well. I find I do a little post 20 minutes before the event starts, or half an hour, just to get people, because people will go, oh, geez, I might go to that now. You know, that kind of way. That's another way to get people in the door. The lastminute.com stuff works really, really well, right? So, okay. Now, are you with me still? Oh, I'm going to go back here. That's me. Am I completely losing you? Am I? You're still there? You're still there. I want to show you how to create an event. Okay. So there are previous events that we'd have worked on, right? That kind of stuff. See that? Right. Just one. I think this event here is still open. Maybe if it's closed, it gives you two. All right here. Look. Say if I wanted to click invite now, just to show you what it looks like in real life. If I click invite, it will say I want to invite 450 friends, right? Left, right? Now, here's one thing that we figured out over the years is, say you've hosted a different event already, a traditional song event, you can go back in and just target anyone, traditional singers. You can go back in, target a history group. You with me? You with me? So that's the great thing about doing previous events. You can have, and you can even as well, here's the other thing. You may have groups here like Historical Wexford. These are public groups. You can go in and post to them and invite friends that are on that page, right? So there's loads of ways to reach people, right? So that's how that works. Now, so if you want to create an event, he says, and this just cross over with this to the old Instagram stuff. It's the only gig in town that's at the moment, you know, until we're starting sticking on posters, right? But even when you start sticking on posters as well, get using this because it's handy. If I want to click an event, I click create event. And I'm going to go, it's going to host it by the Folklore.ie page, right? I click online, or I'm going to GS, I'm going to click general right here. I'm going to click free. Those icons are new in the last couple of weeks, lads, by the way. And if I want to type in poetry reading, right? And blah, blah, blah. I click in the time. At that time at 1 o'clock today, I click the time finish at 2 o'clock. You see what I'm doing there? And you go down and you basically type in a description what the poetry reading is. And then you go to, give it a second, and then you go to whether it's going to be theatre, and then you click next. And then you go, I always click other, then you click next. And then it says to you, we're ready to go, Mick, right? So the only thing we need to do now is put an image on it. So you click edit, and you click upload image, upload photo. And this is where you go routing for your image. So I've got where have I got it? I've got my upskilling workshops, and I'm in my broadcasting, and I'm in my posters. And here's my poster already. Oh, sugar. Upskilling workshops, broadcasting, posters. And I've got my image there of Paddy Berry. There's an image there of Paddy Berry. It's like, there, I got an image there. Click on that. And watch what happens, right? Give it a second. And there, it'll load up like this, right? Now this is where my design half in the middle. So you drag it to position it, and down below, and you've Paddy Berry staring at you. Okay? That's where the line in the middle, and then you click create event. And that's, it says Mick Fortune's created an event. And that means then you've got your 500 friends to invite, and then you can just plug at that during the week, right? Okay? Now, come here to me. In case you don't use Photoshop, which many of you don't, there's loads of things. Do many of you use Canva? Where Canva? Yeah. I'm going to cancel stay on page. I'm going to go to here, Canva. CANVA. And there's a couple of these out here, but this is a good one, right? It's a good one. It's a free template, a free web. Oh, remind me later. It's a free website, design website for designing up posters, flyers, just everything and anything, right? And they let you use them, let you use templates. You just literally drop in your own image and drop in your own text, right? So if you want to go to, this goes for any of your stuff that you're doing, folks, right? You can go in to make posters, whatever you want, go nuts there, right? There's great stuff there. But if you go to the old social media stuff and you go to, I found, what did I find? Geez, it gives you all the templates, right? So you can go to Facebook ad, right? Like that. And you, give it a second. So this is all done online, folks, right? So say, for example, we're going to do something now on cabbage, right? Or snow, whatever it is, right? You go in here like this, you can go, look at this, cove, whatever. You just literally type in, oh, winter, whatever, right? You with me? Just type in your stuff. You can go in here and change the fonts around, whichever way you might like the font. You might go, geez, I prefer that font. Just go change it around, okay? You can move the stuff around. You can also go over as well, if you're not happy with that image, you go over here to uploads, and you go upload your own images, right? So you can upload your own images and literally drag it over and replace it, okay? So say, for example, I'm working on a project in Carlow with scallions, right? And I literally drag it over like that. You can just make it bigger or smaller, right? With me, right? So what you do then is you go to, you figure out what your design is going to be. That's absolutely rubbish. And you go to download. It says, Mick, what do you want to do? I want to click download. And that's going to download that now as a PNG, see it, into my folder. Now it's brilliant. And the quality is absolutely perfect for what most of you won't be using, right? A little bit corporate, but you can get rid of that by putting your own image into it. You just have nice design and nice layout, right? It's incredible that it's free, by the way, right? So then you go back to your Facebook event and you go, geez, I don't like him. You click there, click upload, and then you go to your downloads folder. And here we are now, Cove Winter. And that'll come up for you. So there are ways in which you can make, I think the visual stuff is really important. I think whatever hits you, right? There we go now. Do you see that? Just drop it in. That's rubbish looking, but you get the idea, don't you? Yeah, yeah. And you can use that. I'm going to stop share for a second. That making sense to you? Yeah. Okay. I'll give you another minute or two. Here, don't knock InShot on your mobile phone. Right? I'm going to show you this as well. Say if you don't want to use the old, what do you call it, the old Canva, because I'm finding this handy as well, right? So if I'm going to go down here, I'm going to press the zoom. I'm going to share my screen with you, right? And you'll see this. Now, if I go back to InShot, remember our InShot app? And we were editing on video. Go to photos, right? You click on photos, right? Now I'm going to click in a photograph here. Hen and the chicken this morning, so our lads were very excited. So you go to photos, I dropped in a photo, and you go to canvas, and you can make, say if you wanted just a photo for Instagram or 16:9, but if you scroll across here, you'll also get Facebook 4:3, right? So then you can go Facebook 4:3, and you can click yeah. Then you can go to your text box, and then you can type in chick, right? Obviously you can't read that now. So you go to your color wheel, you go to label, you can put colored boxes around it. Are you with me? That kind of stuff, right? So it's up to you now. This is all your design stuff as well, what you're going to do, right? And obviously your image. And then you literally have that and save that as well, and then basically upload it for your event as well. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. So you can do it with that as well. But just to even show you as well, I find that very handy. If I'm putting up a post now like Folklore.ie, about something about chickens born on the 6th of May, I'll go in there and I just go like this. Look, I just go in like text. I'll go to, it'll actually remember the text, the font that you used before. I'll be able to put my logo down the bottom. Like, this is incredible for a little free app on your phone, right? And if I go click that, then I might put in a box about some folklore. You with me? And save that. So it's really, really handy for that, right? And the only thing is it doesn't let you save it. So it's a really quick edit and save it. Does that make sense to you? It doesn't let you go back and re-edit it, right? You just make the image and save it, right? And when you're there, just to show you this when I'm there, and I'll get out your hair then, right? And we'll come on to Zoom and broadcast in the next section with you, right? If you want to make a very simple poster for an event, right? See this what I'm doing there? Say I want to do a thing on chickens with the children having chickens. And these are not great images to be using right here, right? So, right? There's a layout for you, right? Now, not only does it do SEO layout for you, lads, right? It does. You can click layout and you can pick whatever format you want. Right. So if you want to do a very simple, I know you get this on Instagram as well, but this is an InShot. Say you're doing a workshop in a school or workshop somewhere, and you want to get a very simple poster up. This is probably grand for kind of independent practitioners. You want to get something up very, very quickly. Does that make sense? Right. And also just to show you as well, you can go in and play with the corners and make the corners smaller and lighter and bigger and all that kind of stuff, that kind of jazz, right? And if you go to layout here, this is what I do sometimes. Say you want to do that kind of thing. You literally move that. Say you wanted to put in a piece of text there, you'd save that, then you'd bring it into the other part of the app and put text on it. You know, going to be chicken born in Wexford, blah blah blah. Or if you want to move one image to the next image, you hover it over it and it'll drop down. You with me? So you just move around by moving them around, or you can zoom in on the image so you just get a chicken like that. It all depends on what kind of collage you want to do for a very simple poster, right? Is that of use to you? Because I think I find that really, really handy.
Yeah, that's fab.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So come here to me. Do you have any questions for me at all? Because I'm here. No. Good. What I'm going to do with you in the next section, I'm going to look at using Zoom and then look at remote recording with you in Zoom, right? Would you find Zoom of use to you? Was that of use to you? Was it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Okay, good. Yeah, we look at Zoom and kind of remote recording as well then. Look at that kind of stuff. You sorted?
Yeah.
Rock and roll. Sure, listen, come here. I'll see you next
Tuesday.
Exactly. Good luck, guys. Take care of yourselves.
Thank
All the best.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Michael.
No bother at all.